We'll continue on now to our next presentation, and it's by James Pike of O'Mahony Pike Architectures. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, hello, Mayor, Council members, ladies and gentlemen. I hope the colloquium process indeed will develop. It has been used extensively here by the Urban Forum with great success on certain national policies, so we wish it well as it develops. I want to cover initially the current planning situation in Kilkenny city centre, and then and the other developments, which mainly the central access street, which is now pending development. It's very much in stream, and it will affect this Diageo site. This Kilkenny Centre local area plan was developed, we developed it with the City Council, the Borough Council, nearly 10 years ago. And it identified a number of key sites which needed regeneration or indeed major upgrading. But the Diageo site was not included because it was hoped that that would in fact stay in operation, and the last thing that was done at that time was to prepare something which might be feeling to jeopardize that future. So it was omitted. On the other hand, it is a very key element in that whole process. So this map just shows the current parking situation in Kilkenny, which is obviously a key issue, because even as one wishes to restrict traffic through the city and in the city, it is therefore very important to have your sufficient parking provision, both for cars and public transport, in the right places, and yet to try and keep the main artery, the High Street and other arteries, as free of traffic as possible, or possibly in the future pedestrianised. This is really the full strategy of the street access and parking from the local area plan, and it shows the intended inner relief road across the Diageo site. These are the key sites identified, and framework plans were prepared for those sites. So the key sites that affect the Diageo site are the Batemans Key and Dunnes Stores and that site, and then particularly the Mart site and the Padmore and Barnes site. Wolftone Street car park and the Johns Green are also very relevant to this particular key site. So this is Batemans Key, and the intentions there were to see a new frontage developed to the river, to create the linear garden or parkway along the riverside, and to create new buildings, and to build a multi-storey car park. So it's reconfiguring Dunnes Stores to a certain extent and creating more of a street pattern rather than a very large open car park as at present. The Mart site, a key site for the future, with the new access street running across it, a lot of potential for all types of uses, both from residential, office and employment, and retail, and connecting very closely through to the Diageo site on the new access street. And there is a small master plan for that site. This is just further the other two small sites that are related to Johns Green and the car park site. Again, on your way down to the river frontage. So the central access scheme, which is now at an advanced stage and hopefully will go to tender fairly soon, the inner relief road has actually become a central access street, and the idea is that it must be a friendly environment as part of the city centre. This is just showing the different alignments of the street and its main connections. So it's important that we show through the Diageo site there is a link to Batemans Key and obviously through to either side to the connecting streets. And that is a general indication of where that could and should be. This is the actual alignment of the new street as now designed. It shows the potential. This is looking at on the left side, the Diageo site, and showing a design of potential frontage onto the riverside, leaving room for the park and walkway along the river, and obviously the further enhancement of the same parkway along the other side of the river. It also just shows indicatively possible links and the possible blocks of development which would be possible within the general plan and the location of the bridge. So there was a lot of work went into actually deciding the precise alignment in order to preserve as much and make the least impact on the riverside, keeping clear of the mouth of the Brega and preserving other key aspects. And it loops through and connects then through to the main street, and is obviously a key element, a link in the whole city centre. This is a view of what it will look like when it is built, but without the development of the Diageo site. So it gives you an idea. This is a road running through the city over the bridge, and therefore it is very important that we create the right feeling from the buildings itself. So this is just a sketch of potential buildings on the site, a low rise to not interrupt the skyline of the city and key elements like St. Canice's, but dense enough, and with a curve to it, it will indeed, I think, very much enhance the potential of that street to feel like a friendly, pedestrian-friendly space, and will also help to calm the traffic. And this is a picture of the bridge with the site undeveloped on the right, the park on the left, and then a sketch just showing how the buildings might be on the river frontage. With a second level, in other words, to have buildings at the waterside, and then another level with a deck or a high level. There is, in fact, there is an example of this type of thing in Sligo, in the centre of Sligo, which is quite a nice model. This is a picture of the bridge then looking from the centre and from the castle, if you like, with the old swimming pool on the right. And it shows how the bridge will have a separate pedestrian bridge on it, of light structure, which actually leaves the bridge when it reaches the park and heads through the trees, circles through the trees. So it's trying to reduce the impact of this new bridge, plus the fact there's considerable clear height under the bridge, so pedestrians will be able to move through with ease. And this is just a further view then from Batemans Key. Now a further bridge, pedestrian bridge, is now planned and is in a very advanced stage, and that will link across really in front of the just a very small distance from where we're talking about, so it goes over to the library. So that is underway as well. So these major new infrastructure will create an important and will affect the site very considerably and open it up to the rest of the city. That's a view then of the brewery and its major impact on the city, the new law courts, which is a great, but they're part of the potential of the future. And then you see the very large car park, and that's something we hope in the medium term we can change and realign. And then that's the view from the castle, showing again the impact of the site and how key it is in the whole city. Now, I've just got a few diagrams here of roughly what different types of development take up, and then just discussing a few possible uses and ideas that may come up. First of all, there is a talk of a possible third-level institution, which will need at least 10,000 square meters. If you built it at 3 stories, it wouldn't actually take up all that much land, and you can see that against the overall plan of the brewery. 48 houses in a tightly packed square, urban square, would actually take up maybe twice the area. But if you had 300 car parks stacked on 3 floors only, would actually fill quite a small area, the same as it would be needed for 10 buses. Mind you, you could put the car parking over the bus garage if necessary, or the bus parking. So that's just giving you a general idea of the type of space requirements in a very general way. And then I'd just like to sort of address some potential uses. First of all, I think it's key that the Diageo site and the Mart site be considered together. They're both interrelated. There are certain uses which don't have to be right on the main street, right in the centre, but need to be close in. And there are other uses which, really should be considered for the Diageo site itself. So the third level institute, if that could obviously, the Diageo site would seem to be an excellent place to locate that, whereas student housing, other facilities and support facilities could well be on the Mart site. Residential uses are important, and I think potentially Kilkenny is already very attractive, I think, to retired people who would be attracted to the centre, whether they're from Kilkenny or indeed from outside, as it is that attractive. So the provision of housing which might be suitable for them is important, as well as obviously family housing, but again, family housing has its demands of space and other uses. There are other types of accommodation for small households which we need to look at carefully. So it's not just about students, but it's about a lot of people who, really single people or couples who haven't families. That's a very large part of the demographic, and we need to look at special ways of housing them, providing good housing for them, and the city centre is an ideal location. There is open space and recreation indeed is a key thing, and there is no need for more in the city centre. In fact, discussing city centre with a couple of residents recently, they highlighted the fact that while the castle here and the park are excellent facilities, there is very little else in the way of space, open space, and indeed other recreational places and facilities. So I think that there is potential for the riverside, which is a key element and is already underway, if you like, on one side. That's very important, part of the plan. And then probably the potential actually for the mouth of the Brega itself and the Friary site, maybe to create a really good public spaces which would highlight indeed the history and as well as the geography, if you like, of Kilkenny. Shopping. There was a proposal for Tesco to move into the Mart site. However, Tesco and other supermarkets are taking a major reappraisal of their shops and their shopping. And they're now looking actually at small local stores. You see these proliferating, I know from my experience in the Dublin suburbs, a lot of the inner suburbs, there are more small supermarkets being built, and you get 3 or 4 or even 5 of them in one centre, say in places like Terenure or Ranelagh. So that in fact helps because they want to be more local. What people are doing is going and buying certain things in certain places and shopping around much more than just getting in the car once a week and piling everything in. So that's a key thing, and I think that's very favourable to the Diageo site. It would mean that we could talk about citing some of those, particularly perhaps on the central access street, and also possibly for the regeneration of the Duns site. So that's one key thing. Industries and business, obviously you can attract a third level institute. That's very important, and it will bring a lot of spin-off potentially from other industries. Obviously, Dairy has been mentioned and a very key thing, and there's already that element in the city and other things to build on. Also possible film and media. I've witnessed people discussing and being involved in project here, as they are in so many places now across Ireland. And then perhaps I want to come back to the key thing about parking and the need to provide the right parking in the, so that we use the central access street to the maximum effect, having some of that parking within the Diageo area, but really maximising the potential of the Mart site, but also having the buses having access, so that you can then, in fact, pedestrianise a substantial part of the city centre, a number of parts of which are very unsuitable to vehicular traffic. So that's just setting the scene, perhaps, of some of the opportunities. Thank you.